Saigon, April 2016. Physically, I was sitting in a 16th floor office. Underneath was concrete. Mentally, I was sitting on a thin piece of wood. Underneath was lava. Just like most millennials born in the golden age of technology and science, I looked down on the role of religions. Religions are no more than a pacifier for the fools. Religions are anti-science. Also, I thought. Then I read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. My ground started to crack. It wasn't because of anything particular about the book, but the series of thoughts it had triggered, like a chain of falling dominoes. I had a hard time going through this period of my life, mostly because I couldn't pin down a name for my internal turmoil, and hence it was hard for me to talk to friends or seek answers on the internet. My attempt to communicate it, even to myself, always ended up in mumbo-jumbo that didn't really make sense. It was a lonely journey, but it was a journey on which I'm glad I embarked. Basically, the book Thinking Fast and Slow lays out how susceptible the human mind is to errors and psychological biases, how weak we are in front of attractive, convenient, and comforting conclusions. That very simple fact of there exist immense constraints on our ability to reason implies a scarcity of truth. If people's senses are so limited and their rational capacity is so easy to be tricked, how could I trust the people around me? If my senses are so limited and my rational capacity is so easy to be tricked, how could I trust myself? If I can't even trust myself and the people around me, who else could I trust? Aha, the experts, the scientists. They know the best. Maybe I can trust them. But then the scientists, even though they're better than the most, are not immune to those pitfalls either. It's not hard to find contradicting studies. It's not rare for scientists to carry out studies that confirm their views, and it's usually the case where studies are funded by private interests. And it's nearly impossible for scientific experiments to break out the limits of our bodily senses and perceptions. If our 3 spatial plus 1 time dimension world is merely a manifestation of some activities taking place in the 4th or 5th dimension, there may be no way for us to know the truth. It's like feeling pain on your knee, but there's no way to know that the actual chemical reactions happen a bit further away in some dark corner of your brain. If trust, whether it's the trust in myself or in other people, is put into question, then how about my whole belief system? What do I believe in? I believe that inflicting pain on someone is wrong because my gut feeling says it's wrong, but can I trust my gut feelings? It's just a feeling. And feelings are not always right. Everyone also says wrong, but can I trust everyone? They probably also listen to their gut feelings. Some people from the West would say, oh, God says wrong. Some people from the East would say, oh, the Buddha says wrong. Other religions may also say the same thing. But this whole religion thing is predicated on stories, on fictions. By the same token, people could make the Lord of the Rings into a religion if they want to. I stared at the pencil on the table. The pencil is made of atoms. I'm also made of atoms. What makes the chemical reactions that trigger pain in my body when someone does harm to me more special than the dispersals of pencil's material when it's chopped into pieces? At that point, I was oblivious that my train of thought was driving me off a cliff. I remember I was mumbling to myself repeatedly. What ought to be cannot be drawn from what is. What ought to be cannot be drawn from what is. Science can answer what is. What ought to be, which, mind you, answers the question of right and wrong, is drawn from an abyss. If some random dude could label greed as bad, why can't I say otherwise? What stops me from flipping the whole moral table upside down? Of course, a lot of people would not be happy, and I may be punished from such an act, but it doesn't make me wrong. I forgot about this whole ordeal the next day. It's normally hectic after the end of a quarter. At first, it was only a few gusts of eerie foreign wind that brushed by my ears once in a while when I was bored, so I wasn't much bothered. I was doing well financially and career-wise, surrounded by lovely people. I had a bright future ahead. What could possibly go wrong? Believe, believe, believe. It may not be as important as other people make it out after all. What does it have to do with my day-to-day life, with my work, with my decisions? I just need to make the decisions that bring benefits to the company I work for. In return, I receive money, security, and recognition. Then I could either flaunt them to other people or exchange them for consumption. Isn't it all great? After 1 week or two, I had fewer things to be busy with. That question found its way to creep into my mind again. I started to question everything I did. I found myself pondering over and over again the most basic question of morality. I caught myself disdaining everything my colleagues and my friends said. I saw them making conversations like sheep making noise. No, it didn't make me feel good and above. It terrified me. The image of me drifting on some kind of liquid without any anchor scared me. And when I looked back, I caught sight of my belief system collapsing. The trigger was still warm from the heat of my palm. The destroyer was nobody but me. It sounded over-dramatic. What kind of robust structure a belief system of a 24-year-old could possibly have? But it was that traumatic to me at the time. I still don't know how on earth I ended up there after reading the most benign book you could ever find. I talked to a friend about it. By the time I finished putting that strange, elusive fear into words, I realized how insane I sounded. I thought to myself, if I had said I was scared of being enslaved by aliens, it would have sounded less far-fetched. During that period of time, which I would call frantically searching for an anchor that I could build something upon, I got into all kinds of stuff, including quantum physics, philosophy, depth psychology, astrology, and even tarot cards. There were so many moments I could have given it all up, digging my head in the sand like the ostriches. I didn't need an answer for this non-tangible question of morality and belief to thrive in a materialistic world after all. Or did I? I still don't know. But somehow this question was like a magnetic force that my mind kept navigating towards, as soon as it had nothing to be busy with. Then the role of religion started to dawn on me. I realized that rationality cannot answer the why of moral problems. That's the reason we created fictions to keep our shit together. Fictions give us the why. We go to heaven, we reincarnate with a better life, we achieve nirvana. Then we fingers crossed that other people believe them too. Now I kind of sympathize with the West's dreadfulness when their God is dead, as declared by Nietzsche. Their whole moral and legal system was built upon a long-standing embrace of Christianity. What would be left when their God is brought down? I grew up in the East. We didn't have a God growing up, so I guess we're fine without one. Recently, I got around to read Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It was a tough read. It was tough majorly because I'm not used to Russian names, so the characters often got mixed up. But it was an eye-opening read. The story follows a tall, handsome, and intelligent young man called Raskolnikov, who murdered two innocent people as an experiment for his ideology of transgression. He believes that some people who he calls extraordinary men or supermen, above society and above the law of good and evil, have the right to carry out murders as a means to transform society for the greater good and not to be punished. Dostoevsky used the story to point out the dangers of rationalism and utilitarianism. His famous quote, "If God does not exist, everything is permitted," marks his warning about the anarchy brought upon society by such a simple and insidious idea. It is a direct attack on utopian socialism, and as many critics have postulated, it was a prophecy on the rise of Hitler. By the way, I finally found the name of the dreadful feeling I had back in 2016. It's called the fear of being on the verge of nihilism. The term nihilism had been dangling in front of my eyes sometimes for a while before, but somehow by simply reading its definition, I couldn't establish the link. Only after I read Crime and Punishment and listened to people discussing it, did it start to click. Nihilism may not be able to find its standing in the 21st century, I think, or at least that's what I hope. These days, more people have the luxury of reading for leisure, and hence they're better informed, better educated. I truly believe that the path of education is the path to a blissful life, not to secure a career, a status, or a thick wallet. I've learned this from Buddhism. A nihilistic individual is a sad story. A nihilistic society is an atrocity. There are at least two paths for such a society to spiral down: 1984 by George Orwell and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. One turns people into sheep, sleepwalking under authoritarianism, equating the love for the government with patriotism, and embracing the values of blind loyalty, thinking they would make one virtuous. The other one keeps people wholly occupied with consumptions. Anyway, for now, I've given up the quest for a religion that may bring peace to my drifting little soul. I embrace the teachings of the Buddha and the stories in the Bible, but it requires greater commitment to follow a religion than mere appreciation. I found my peace instead in philosophy. I'm not at all an avid reader, so my grasp on philosophy rudimentary. To be honest, philosophy didn't really answer the questions I had since 2016. Rather, it gave me even more questions. But strangely, it soothed me tremendously. I found the voices of the people who had troubled in similar ways. Growing up and spending 12 years under an education system that does not leave much space for critics and freedom to probe into certain ideologies, I found liberation and joy in navigating through contradicting philosophical ideas. Reading philosophy, even just for a little, has brought me one valuable skill: facing the paradox, the uncertainty, the unknown, and the possibility of being wrong without trembling. Brisbane, November 2020. Mentally, I'm still sitting on a thin piece of wood, but now underneath is calming water.